Hi, welcome to another video. So, ZAI recently launched GLM-5.2, and it had been making waves across the community. However, there's one more thing that they launched, which is not being talked about a lot, but it is quite cool. It is called Zcode. Zcode is basically what OpenAI's Codex is for GPT models, but this is for GLM. Since this contraption is fine-tuned for GLM, it means that it will be a bit better for sure. At least I hope so. The reason that this is cool because it gives you better limits over other tools when using the GLM coding plan. Similarly, it also has a free tier that gives you 5 million tokens daily worth of usage, and that too with GLM 5.2. So this is quite a good one to have in your arsenal nonetheless. Now let's talk about how it works. So you either need a GLM coding plan or an API key, or just use it with the free tier. The interface itself looks a lot like Codex, as you can tell. The aesthetics and everything is pretty much the same. It's not a bad thing, but something to note for sure. On the sidebar, you get new task option to start a new task. The search option is also here, and you also get the skills. In skills, it is almost like a marketplace, so you can find different ones and install them in one click. Clicking skills takes you to the settings page. Here, you can also see the MCP servers option, plugins, commands, and stuff like that. There's also the indexing feature, usage option, where you can see your quota and so on. So let's try something with it as well. I'm going to add a new project here, and then write my prompt here. You can also see the usage here as well by just hovering over the circle here. This is quite a bit easy access, which I like a lot. Now, as soon as you send the prompt, it starts working on the prompt as well. You can see some options at the top as well, where you can see the thread title, and on the right, you can see the option to open the project anywhere and in any editor. And you can also see the toggle panel option, which is really cool because it opens up a whole browser. It is very similar to the options by Codex, where it includes a whole browser as well, though that browser can indeed be controlled by Codex itself. This one can't. Anyway, as you can see that the work is now done, so what we can do now is that we can just open it up in preview, and it will toggle the right sidebar, and it will allow you to check it out. It works quite well. Now, if you want to change something in the generation, then you can use the option to refer an element from the preview in the chat box, and then make changes to that specific element. You can also use the Open DevTools, and you can check console logs and stuff like that as well. It at least seems that you don't really get a whole changelog of files and stuff like that for the changes. You can see the diff here in the bottom, but nowhere else and not in a proper view. So that is a bummer. It also doesn't have any file explorer inbuilt to see the files and stuff like that, which is a bit bad as well. There are many smaller features that are not available. For an example, there's no worktree option. There's no option to initialize Git from one touch or anything like that. One of the better features that it has is the remote feature where you can connect it to messaging platforms like WeChat and so on. And it will allow you to send a message from anywhere easily, and Agent can start working on it quite well, which is great. I do think that it is quite a good one. You get better limits. The agentic contraption is also better made for the GLM models, and it is quite a bit better, or close enough to others, while giving you better limits, which is what makes it useful. You get 5 million tokens every day for free, which is quite a bit great. The model itself is actually very good, and it has been benchmarked a ton already. On the Independent Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, the max version scores 51, and is currently the highest scoring open weights model. This is an MIT licensed model, sitting within a few points of the proprietary frontrunners, which is insanity to be honest. That index combines 9 evaluations covering coding, science, knowledge, tool use, and long context reasoning. Artificial analysis also measured around 106 output tokens per second, which is faster than the average for comparable open models. The caveat is that max mode is quite verbose, and the measured API price of 140 cents per million input tokens and 440 cents per million output tokens is expensive compared with many other open weight models. It is still competitive against closed frontier models, and the free Zcode allowance changes the value equation completely, but cheap access and cheap API pricing are not exactly the same thing. Now, the coding numbers are more interesting. On Terminal Bench 2.1, GLM 5.2 scores 81, up from 63.5 for GLM 5.1. Opus 4.8 is at 85, GPT 5.5 is at 84, and Gemini 3.1 Pro is at 74. So GLM is only a few points behind the best closed models. That is a huge jump for what is basically a point update. On swe-bench Pro, it gets 62.1 compared with 58.4 for GLM. 5.1, 58.6 for GPT 5.5, and 54.2 for Gemini. Opus is still ahead at 69.2, so GLM does not win every chart. It also scores 48.9 on NL2 Repo and 63.7 on Program Bench, while DeepSwe jumps from 18 to 46.2. So, this is not just the same model with a larger context window slapped onto it. Then we have three newer long horizon benchmarks that are much closer to how coding agents are actually being used now. The first is Frontier Swe. It tests open-ended technical projects lasting hours or even tens of hours, including systems optimization, large code construction, and applied machine learning research. GLM-5.2 gets a dominant score of 74 versus 75 for Opus, 72 for GPT, and only 30 for GLM-5.1. It is within 1 point of Opus while more than doubling the previous GLM score. This is probably the most impressive result in the launch. Post-train bench is even more unusual. Each agent gets an H100 GPU and has to improve smaller models through post-training. GLM 5.2 scores 34.3, ahead of GPT at 28.4 and behind Opus at 37.2. This tests whether an agent can manage experiments and make progress over a much longer trajectory, not just fix one bug. Swe-marathon includes ultra-long tasks like building compilers, optimizing kernels, and developing production-grade services. GLM 5.2 scores 13, compared with 1 for GLM 5.1, 12 for GPT, and 4 for Gemini. However, Opus scores 26, which is literally double. So, GLM looks great, but Opus still has a substantial lead on the longest and messiest engineering work. Take the marketing victory lap with that grain of salt. The tool use results are mixed, but strong. It scores 76.8 on the public MCP Atlas set, just behind Opus at 77, and ahead of GPT at 75. On Tool Decathlon, though, it gets 48 while Opus gets 59 and GPT gets 55. It is frontier level in some agent setups, but it is not the best tool caller everywhere. Outside coding, it scores 99.2 on AM 2026, 91.2 on GPQA Diamond, and 54.7 on Humanities Last Exam with tools. The bigger story is that GLM 5.2 is competitive across reasoning, repositories, terminals, tools, and long horizon execution. Now, the one of the most important detail is that the 3 long horizon tests used the full 1 million token context, max effort, and up to 128K output tokens. swe-bench Pro used a 400K token context, while Terminal Bench used 256K context window. These are high compute evaluations, and different effort settings or agent harnesses can move the scores quite a lot. Still, this is a genuine mythos moment for me. The model has its own taste and feels different from Anthropic and GPT models. Having this level of coding ability with open weights and an MIT license is amazing, and combining it with Zcode and the free daily allowance gives it crazy value for actual day-to-day use. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.